Let's talk about what is without a doubt the second best Tim Burton Batman film. So Batman Returns tells the story of Batman continuing his vigilante justice in Gotham City just in time for the Penguin and Catwoman to make their rise during Christmas. Well, Merry Christmas Eve, everybody. Welcome to the Batman Returns review. Yes, this is a very random video for me to do, so let me explain. If you do not already watch Scream Stream, the stream that I'm a part of, at least once a month, sometimes bi-weekly over on the Drum Dumbs channel. On the previous episode, talking all about Christmas horror films, we all did a Secret Santa pact, where we're not going to give each other gifts, we're going to give each other a review. So we all got random names given to us by a third party of one of the other Scream Stream members. Bryan Lomax was assigned me, and his chosen review for me to do on Christmas Eve in front of you all is Batman Returns. So, I'm going to have my video today. At some point during the day, Bryan is going to have his video, which I believe was Lee's choice of Silent Night, Deadly Night, the first one, which is the first time Bryan has ever seen it, and I have about an 8% chance of confidence that he's actually going to like that movie. But we'll see. Bryan surprised me before. Mother Mayhem, Lindsay, she's probably not going to get hers out. Unfortunately, I got her, so I gave her Die Hard, my favorite movie of all time, but she's had technical difficulties lately, so I'd be very surprised if her video comes up, but she might give me a little bit of Christmas cheer and get it out there. And CP from Willis Greedia, I believe, got a choice from Lindsay, which I believe is the ultimate Christmas story, or the ultimate horror Christmas story. I don't know the title of the movie. I haven't seen it yet. Go check out CP's video. And then Lee is going to be doing The Ref, one of my personal favorites, which was chosen by CP. So damn good choice, CP. But nonetheless, we're here to talk about Batman Returns. We're here to talk about Tim Burton, Michael Keaton, Michelle Pfeiffer, Danny DeVito, a whole lot of weird shit. Let's get into it. So let me set the stage for you as a Batman fan. Yes, Batman is by far my favorite superhero. By far, the most comics that I have read have been Batman comics. By far, the superhero that I look forward to new films for the most is Batman. Unfortunately, it looks like it's going to take 20 fucking years before we get another one, but that's a video for another day. But let's go back to 1990. This is the time when I grew up in. I was born in 1990. I was born the same year that Tim Burton dropped his landmark film, Batman. Changed the landscape for Batman. It changed the landscape for comic book films. Very, very big movie back in the day. I was never really a big fan of Tim Burton's Batman films. I grew up in the era, yes, I'm not ashamed to say it because I was young enough to where these movies appealed to me, where Batman Forever and Batman and Robin were kind of my era of Batman films because I was old enough to go see them in the theaters. Nowadays, yes, they're garbage. But as a kid, I liked those movies better than I did the Batman Tim Burton films because Tim Burton, all the way back to being a kid, his style has never really appealed to me. I will give the dude full credit. He is a visionary. I can look at 13 seconds of any Tim Burton film and immediately tell you that it's Tim Burton because of just the visual and the style and the flair that he brings to it. It stands out like a sore thumb. The dude is awesome when it comes to visuals, but I've always felt that he's more style than substance. So I have not watched either of the Batman films, Batman or Batman Returns, probably since the 90s. So what do I think of Batman Returns coming to it now as an adult? So let's start right off with the good things about Batman Returns, and I've already kind of hinted at it. The visuals, the style, the set design, the atmosphere that Tim Burton creates. Like pretty much all of his movies that I've seen, whether the ones I like it or don't like it, he's great at that. He totally builds his own version of Gotham City, has its own signature style to it. The city lives and breathes Tim Burton galore. And it's awesome. It's very cool stuff to look at. It's a very pretty movie. It's a very visually stunning movie. You're never bored with the images you have on screen. I would even go as far as to say that being in the age that I live in now, where we have comic book movies like every 3 days, it seems like, in the movie theaters, and they all kind of have their own template look for the most part, it was actually kind of visually refreshing to go back and see something like this from way back in the day whenever comic book movies were few and far between, and see Tim Burton's style on a comic book film, because you don't see comic book films made like this anymore. We might not ever see it ever again. So visually, the movie is very impressive, very refreshing, and very interesting to look at. Next, I gotta give props. Probably the biggest thing that I enjoyed about this movie for a pure nostalgia factor is Danny Elfman's score. I love the old school 90s Batman scores. This one, the score from the animated series, I can hear just a few notes of it and I'm like, ah, man, back in the childhood, the good days. It brings me back, people. I love the score for this movie. I've heard from other people that are fans of the Tim Burton movies that the score is not as strong as it was in the 1989 Batman. Possibly, I really don't know. But I really like the score here, and I like what they do to kind of utilize the score to make that Tim Burton style kind of have a little bit more life to it. The Danny Elfman score totally fits the Tim Burton style of movie that this is. I also really like the performances by pretty much all of the actors. Despite the problems that I might have with their characters, which I will get into in a little while, I think that Michael Keaton does damn good because I like Michael Keaton. Let's just be honest. I don't think the dude's ever done anything bad in my eyes. You get into Michelle Pfeiffer, who is basically the definitive Catwoman for the longest time. For some people, she's still the definitive Catwoman.
I don't know about you, Miss Kitty, but I feel so much yummier.
Danny DeVito, although a very strange character, he brings that character fully to life under the direction of Tim Burton and makes it his own and really goes for it in a way that I've never seen Danny DeVito play a character before or since this movie. Even smaller characters like Max Schreck, played by the great Christopher Walken. Christopher Walken is always a good thing to have in your movie. I'll talk about the character in a little bit, but just the presence of seeing Christopher Walken, that's always at least a half a point higher than you would have been because the dude is the man. And diving a little bit deeper into what I'm talking about, Michael Keaton does have a very unique charm and a unique style that he brings to not only Batman and Bruce Wayne. He has a definitive style. Most people that grew up with the 1989 and this 1992 film prefer Michael Keaton. It's like that whole scene in, what was it, Neighbors, where they're debating about Christian Bale versus Michael Keaton, and you get the one generation that loves Michael Keaton, the other generation that loves Christian Bale. There's a reason for that. Michael Keaton stands out as this role. For the longest time, he was the only person to play Batman twice. He has a very kind of calm, kind of, not really jokingly, but very smooth delivery to his Bruce Wayne. His Bruce Wayne doesn't really have a whole lot of fucks to give. He doesn't have a whole lot of weight to him, a whole lot of dramatic weight. There's not a whole lot of that darkness of the story of Batman, you know. Darkness, my parents died, whatever the fuck that song was in Lego Movie. That's not this Batman. This Batman's just cool to go tip a few beers back with, and then at the end of the night, he goes and fucks up a bunch of people in Gotham City. Cool Batman. I like Michael Keaton. And Michelle Pfeiffer, I'll say, probably is the standout performance of this movie because she has a lot of different shades to her character, and she also has the biggest character arc. Arguably the only character arc. We'll get into it. But the way that she starts off with this character of Selena Kyle, she's a very shy, reserved, kind of quiet, obedient, subservient woman. And then as soon as she gets murdered, that shit totally gets flipped. And now she's this seductress. She's sexy as fuck. She's, you know, almost a whore. Dare I say it. She's like grabbing Batman on his ass and everything. It's the 90s, people. But you get into it and she's like two totally different duality sides of this character. She's the very submissive, quiet girl, and then she's the strong female presence that's going to take on Batman, that's going to take on Gotham City. You will not stand in her way, or she's going to either charm you into fucking throwing yourself off a roof, or she's just going to take what she wants and scratch the shit out of you on her way out. I like her character, I like her delivery, and Michelle Pfeiffer, like I said, was the definitive Catwoman for the longest time, and for a lot of people, still the definitive Catwoman. And Danny DeVito, yeah, he just does a lot of weird, nasty shit in this movie. That's about as far as I'll go with it. There's a lot of slime, a lot of blood, a lot of ingestion of things that I wouldn't want inside my body. He's a fucking weird dude, weird character, but Danny DeVito brings it, so yeah. And my final positive for Batman Returns is, as a horror fan, as somebody that likes to dip into the darker side of filmmaking, the darker side of storytelling, there's elements of Batman Returns that I can really appreciate that they went for it. They really went for dark, fucked up shit in this movie. I actually was messaging Bryan while I was rewatching it saying, dude, it's kind of shocking the shit that made it into this movie back in 1992. A movie that nowadays would at least be kind of geared more towards families and kids while maybe having some adult elements. This feels like an adult movie that maybe kids kind of got brought into because of the marketing, and their parents were probably covering their eyes and their ears through most of this movie in 1992. And that's just, it's unique. It's probably the most adult Batman movie that we've ever had, despite all the dark, crazy shit that happened in the Christopher Nolan movies, despite all the dark, crazy shit that Zack Snyder was putting in Batman v Superman, and despite whatever the hell this new Batman movie, if we ever get it's gonna have in it, Batman Returns was dark. And that's a nice transition into my negatives. The movie's too dark. It's too fucked up. It's too weird. It's too bitter and cynical. There is like no levity whatsoever in Batman Returns. It's just dark, somber, death, baby death, S&M shit, sex lube. Yes, we'll get into that. I mean, the main motivation of your main villain, Penguin, is to kidnap and violently murder all of the firstborn children of all of the families in Gotham. Just writing that on paper would probably get you thrown in Hollywood jail nowadays. Dark as fuck. But aside from just being dark, it's just out there weird. It's a very well-known fact that after they got the success that they had with the first Batman film, Warner Brothers begged Tim Burton to come back for this movie, and he wanted nothing to do with it. And the only way that they were able to coerce him back was by giving him full creative control. And it shows. The first film, and I'm not the first person to say this, but it's absolutely a fact. The first film is a Batman film by Tim Burton. Batman Returns is a Tim Burton film that just happens to star Batman. I mean, from start to finish, this movie just reeks Tim Burton. The whimsical circus style, the visual flair, style over substance, people. All the weird shit that he injects into this, the interpretations of the characters, the way that they go for the villain motivations, murdering babies and biting people's noses off and fucking cats reviving people, just so out there, fucked up, bizarre, batshit, crazy, that it doesn't quite appeal to me. As dark as the shit gets, and as much as I like dipping into the darker side of things, it just goes too far with it. It's to the point where it's not really enjoyable for me. It doesn't feel like a Batman movie, it feels like Tim Burton. And that's not a positive for me, as I've already told you.
Tonight, while their parents party, they'll be dreaming away in their safe cribs, their soft beds, and we will snatch them, carry them into the sewer, and toss them into a deep, dark, watery grave.
I mean, just look at everything surrounding the villains. Like I said, Penguin trying to murder babies. At one point, he actually offers Catwoman 2 different types of sex lube. The dude is a horny bastard too. He's gonna show the chick his flipper trick. One of the ways that Max Schreck convinces him to run for mayor is by promising him, unlimited amounts of poontang. I think that might even be a direct quote. Look it up. Challenge you. Poontang. I guarantee that word is in this fucking movie. I heard it. You get into even further shit past that. And just the actual reality of what Catwoman is. A dead chick. And Batman is making out with a fucking zombie half the movie. Just out there weird. And it made it into a movie for families in 1992. That's fucking crazy. But moving on from that, let's just talk about the story in general in this movie. What story? There's no plot. There's no overarching journey that Batman goes through in this movie. He's just there, still in Gotham City, doing his thing. The movie, the only shreds of story that it gives you is the character motivations of Penguin and Catwoman and the fact that Batman has to stop him because he's Batman. That's about the overarching story that you get. Rich family doesn't want deformed kid, throws him into a river, he turns into a mad, sadistic, evil, weird-looking, slime-spewing, fish-eating bastard. Wouldn't we all? 33 years later, comes back, tries to take over Gotham City. Catwoman gets pushed out of a fucking window, gets revived by cats within 5 seconds, and then comes back with 9 lives trying to fuck everybody up that wronged her, and team up with Danny DeVito or the Penguin to take on Batman because she don't like nobody standing in her way, and Batman just has to deal with it. That's the story of Batman Returns. That's not a story. That's character motivations thrown into a movie with a bunch of visuals wrapped around it in 2 hours. There's no overarching story. I can tell you the story of Batman Begins. I can tell you the story of The Dark Knight. I can tell you the story of The Dark Knight Rises. I can tell you the story of Batman Forever. I can't tell you the story of Batman Returns. It's just character shit. And aside from lacking a story, we really lack any kind of time with Batman. It's a fucking Batman movie. This is one of those Batman movies that is just here to display the villains. Batman is literally a plot device that just gets in the way of the villain's plans. That's basically what he's reduced to. and to get horny about Selina Kyle. Again, haven't we all? Michelle Pfeiffer back in 1992, I hear you, Bruce Wayne, but he doesn't get anything to do. There's no like character arc, there's no development, there's not even like an introspective view into who he is as a character. It's just Michael Keaton in a mask. And that's part of the reason why I never really gravitated toward him in the first place, as much as I love Michael Keaton. I love Michael Keaton to death. Multiplicity for life. But you get Batman Returns, and it might even be this way in the 1989 Batman. Like I said, this is the weird situation where I'm watching this with no memory of 1989 aside from a couple of Jack Nicholson scenes. And it might even be the same way there where the Joker just took the whole fucking movie away from Batman. But you get here, as much as a Batman fan as I am, Batman needs to be your focus in your movie. It's also one of the reasons why I prefer Batman Begins to Dark Knight. And I probably lost 200 subscribers by saying that, but it's the truth. Because Batman Begins is a Batman movie. The Dark Knight is a Joker movie. Batman Returns is a Penguin and Catwoman movie with Christopher Walken pulling some strings and Batman there fucking up the works.
So, Mr. Penguin, a penguin is a bird that cannot fly. I am a man. I have a name. Oswald Cobblepot.
And even on that level, when we just talk about a movie that's kind of driven by the villains, which can be done, you know, they tried it with Suicide Squad, didn't quite succeed, but you get to Batman Returns, and again, just the Tim Burton having no kind of reins on him whatsoever and being able to do whatever the fuck he wants, it's very clear that this dude has no idea or no fucks to give or all the above on who these characters are. Batman, Penguin, Catwoman. I mean, Batman, obviously, he just gets kind of shoved to the background like I've already said, but you get to Penguin and Catwoman, and it's like the most literal translation of those names you could possibly fucking have. Penguin. He's a, comic book-wise, he is a short, stocky, rich, genius, mastermind criminal that has his hands in gun running and everything else under the fucking sun. Tim Burton. Hey, you want to do a Penguin movie? Sure, Fish Boy, I'll do that. We'll make him eat fish heads. We'll make him live in the fucking sewers for 33 years. Every time he spits, it's like the old Nickelodeon ooze coming out. Hey, you want to do a Catwoman movie? It's about a cat burglar, just to let you know. She's only called Catwoman because her costume and, you know, the cat burglar thing, yeah, you get it, the irony. Yeah, sounds good. I'm gonna make her a half human, half cat zombie with 9 lives that licks herself and drinks milk. Fuck. All right, Tim, all right. And while some people, I'm sure, probably appreciate those extreme, weird Tim Burton translations of those characters, I guarantee you, I bet testicles, that if this movie was made today, fans would lose their shit about those kinds of translations of these beloved villains. But nostalgia makes a lot of people like it. 2018, that shit wouldn't fly. And it doesn't fly for me when I watch it. It's interesting, it fits in this Tim Burton weird-ass world, but those are not the versions of Penguin and Catwoman that I want to see. They're just not. As sexy as Michelle Pfeiffer is, not my Catwoman. And let's talk about the character Max Schreck. This is kind of the villain that is created for the movie. To the best of my knowledge, this is not a comic book accurate character. There's no issue of Batman anywhere that has Max Schreck, at least before 1992 came. And Christopher Walken in this role is entertaining because Christopher Walken's always entertaining. He's always a good presence to have on screen. Like I said, half a point for that. But I'm going to have to deduct a whole point because the character is just fucking pointless in the movie. You could easily have given the motivations and the schemes and the plots of Max Schreck to Penguin and reinforced his character and made the focus more on him, and it would have made the story a little bit more cohesive and a little bit more flowing, the fact that he would have all these revenge motivations plus this power plant thing that he's been doing on the side, trying to take over Gotham little by little, this businessman. You could have made a really solid Penguin and had both those visions come together. Max Schreck feels like a superfluous villain in this. He feels like the Justin Hammer of this movie, where it's like, what are you doing here, dude? We're looking at these other cool villains. You're just in here because we needed a third villain. No, give your shit to him. Get the fuck off my set.
How about a kiss, Santa Claus?
Now let me leave Penguin alone for a second. Let me talk about some of my issues with Catwoman. Again, the performance, the costume, the sexiness, all that kind of stuff, great. Love it. But the problem that I have with this movie is that I never buy into the romance between Bruce Wayne and Selina Kyle, and that's one of the only story beats we get with Bruce Wayne. Anybody that sees Michelle Pfeiffer in this role is going to swoon after her. The fact that he's attracted to her and wants to stick his batarang in her does not make an effective relationship drama to me. They see each other, they have a little bit of a visual flirtation, they see each other later on, they dance, they figure out each other's secret identity, and at the end of the movie it's supposed to be this huge scene when Bruce Wayne pulls his mask off like, look, it's me, we're the same, we're both divided down the middle. Please come with me and we'll live forever. You haven't earned that, at least to me. It just does not feel that way. To be fair, I felt the same way about The Dark Knight Rises, but I just don't feel like that's a relationship that you can effectively build in a movie that's not just Batman and Catwoman, or a series that doesn't have Catwoman across multiple films. It just doesn't feel like this relationship that Bruce Wayne would be willing to give up his secret identity and be willing to make all these sacrifices for, just for a little bit of visual flirtation. Sign of the times, I understand, but watching it now, gotta be fair, just didn't buy into it. And the last negative that I will say about this movie, and then I'll quit beating it up, give my score, and get the fuck out of here and start opening up some presents, is that there is some seriously lazy directing and lazy storytelling that I feel like gets excused because of the campiness of the movie, and maybe a sign of the times. But again, watching it in 2018 with fresh eyes as an adult, some of this shit really stands out as stupid. How did Penguin ever get these secret blueprints to Batman's Batmobile? Explain it. How does Batman pull off his mask and all of a sudden have no black makeup on his eyes?
Split. Right down the center.
I mean, you could have had Michael Keaton with the makeup on his eyes. The scene would have been exactly the same. Or you could have shot it from behind. Something. Lazy filmmaking. They're just gonna, fuck it. They're not gonna notice it. The shit's campy as hell. I noticed it, bitch. Batman figuring out that there's a homing device underneath his Batmobile, and he's somehow able to punch through the exterior armor of his battle tank vehicle with a couple of punches and stick his hand through and pull it up. My point is, there's silly shit in the movie that I'm not gonna excuse. If you excuse it, by all means. When I see it, I'm going, that's fucked up. You could have wrote a different way around that. Tim Burton. Style over substance. But all in all, guys, even though I definitely harped more on the negatives because I feel like I need to justify not loving this beloved classic of a Batman film, I actually enjoyed myself for the most part rewatching it. It's not a Batman film that I hate. There's not really, well, Batman and Robin probably. There's not really any Batman film aside from that I would say that I hate and I will never watch again and not get any enjoyment out of it whatsoever. I might even be able to watch Batman and Robin and just enjoy the fact that it's so fucking bad. But this movie, I enjoyed it for the most part. It was kind of a nice breath of fresh air in this comic book landscape that we're in now, where everything is template, everything has this formula, and you go back and watch how shit was done in 1992. I liked the darker aspects, even though I feel like it took it too far. Seeing kind of the Tim Burton world, there's some Tim Burton stuff I can appreciate. So I did enjoy this movie overall, despite the fact that I have major issues with it. It will never be a classic in my eyes. There's no question why I didn't like it as a kid. And it's never going to be a movie that I would ever put in like my top 2 or 3 Batman films, especially the more that we get. Hopefully. So if you're a Batman fan, if you're starving for a Batman movie because WB can't get their shit together, and you want to check out some of the relics of the past, there's a lot of interesting stuff to see in this one. I feel like it is an entertaining time. It's definitely a sign of the times, a relic of the past, but there is some enjoyment to be had here, and it's definitely the most dark adult Batman you're going to find. So if that floats your boat, definitely check this thing out online and stream it. So what do you guys think of Batman Returns? Is this one of your favorite Batman films? Do you prefer the 1989 Batman or 1992's Batman Returns? Do you feel like it went too dark, or do you like it for the fact that it just goes balls to the wall with how crazy that it is? Put all of your thoughts down in the comment section below, guys, and be sure to check out the rest of Scream Stream's Secret Santa videos. Please like and share this video, hit that subscribe button. If you're not already a subscriber, check down in the video description below for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, my Spreadshirt store, and my Patreon page. Almost forgot the names of that shit. As many times as I've said it, I still forget it sometimes. My Patreon page, guys, great way to give back to this channel, get cool exclusive content for your eyes only if you decide to become a patron. So check all that out, and if you want to check out some more of my videos, including all the other festivities I have planned for Christmas Eve and Christmas, you can check those out by clicking right over here.